Hello everyone, back tuning into today's second video. We're going to have a look at the weather for next week's 10 days for today's second video, which takes us to around 22nd of September. We'll also have a look at the Beijing climate centre next 40 days. That's going to take us well into October. And we'll begin by bringing you up to date with the situation in the tropical Atlantic, because there's so much going on at the moment. Loads of storms, and of course we've got Hurricane Florence as well. Hurricane Helene will have impacts on the UK's weather next week, not as a hurricane, but it will produce probably a surge of heat and also chance of wet and windy weather too. So there's going to be a lot to talk about in today's second video, and I'll bring you up to date with all of the latest developments very shortly. Just to say that today's first video was the 5-day forecast. You can find that video on the 5-day forecast page, so there's a written version that goes with that as well. It'll be rather changeable 5 days coming up. Temperatures close to average through most of it. Then right at the end, Monday, we have a lot of uncertainty in relation to the remains of Hurricane Helene, and check out the 5-day forecast for more on that, although we will cover it, of course, in this video as well. So we're going to start off by having a look at what's happening in the tropical Atlantic. So we've got lots of areas of interest. We've got two yellow X's. Let's deal with those. First of all, this one is a very long way north. It's at 35 degrees north. Would normally get a orange X appearing that far north. That is disturbance 2, so it's a non-tropical area of low pressure located several hundred miles west-southwest of the Azores, and it's producing a large area of showers and thunderstorms and gale force winds. This system could gradually acquire tropical or subtropical characteristics during the next couple of days while it meanders over the northeastern Atlantic Ocean, and before it becomes absorbed into a larger trough of low pressure, which is going to be further north in the Atlantic, of course. For more information, see High Seas Forecast issued by the National Weather Service. So you've got a 40% chance of becoming subtropical or tropical in the next 28 hours, 50% chance of doing so in the next 5 days. Then we've got this orange X just here over in the Caribbean, just over there, moving in towards the Gulf now of Mexico. Let's see what they're saying about that at the National Hurricane Center. So this is disturbance 1, with a 60% chance of cyclone formation in the next 48 hours. Cloudiness and showers associated with a trough of low pressure over the south-central Gulf of Mexico have decreased since yesterday, and the Air Force reconnaissance plane scheduled to investigate the system for today will likely be cancelled. Interesting. However, upper level winds are forecast to become a little more conducive for developments, and a tropical depression could still form today or tomorrow before the system reaches the western Gulf Coast. Regardless of development, heavy rainfall and gusty winds are expected across portions of northeastern Mexico, Texas and Louisiana later this week, and interest there should monitor the progress of this system. So there are two areas that might develop into something tropical. Then we've got Isaac just here, which is now a tropical storm. Isaac, that's beginning to head in towards those sort of eastern Caribbean islands. Let's see what they're saying about that, what the forecast track is. So it's going to stay as a tropical storm, not going to be a hurricane, but it's going to be a tropical storm. That's its current position just here, and it's moving into the Caribbean, south of Puerto Rico, just there, Dominican Republic, just there, Jamaica, just there. So that's going to be bringing some heavy rain, thunderstorms, no doubt, and really strong winds as well into that area. Let's see what they're saying with that one. So tropical storm Isaac, maximum sustained winds of around 60 miles an hour, which of course is a real blow, and lots of heavy rain associated with that one as well. Then we've got Helene. This is Hurricane Helene just here. It's nowhere near any land area at the moment. It's not going to be anywhere near any land area. That's its position just there. It's going to move northwards in that kind of motion in the next couple of days, going down from a hurricane to a tropical storm. And then this tropical storm is going to start to curve up towards Europe. So that's its position by Monday. That's a long way north to have a tropical storm. It's 45 degrees north, and it's sort of out to the west of Spain, Portugal, and the Bay of Biscay. Got the UK and Ireland up here. Looks like this storm is going to go further northwards. It will get downgraded, become post-tropical, and then just be an area of low pressure. But going to be a lot of humid air associated with this. And that's going to bring a lot of warmth, humidity, maybe some strong winds and heavy rain to Ireland and parts of the UK through the early part of next week. More on that very shortly. And then finally, of course, the big story is Hurricane Florence, just there, getting ever closer to the southeastern part of the United States. So Hurricane Florence is a Category 4 hurricane. It's a monster storm, will cause devastation to anything that happens to be in its path. It's got maximum sustained winds of 130 miles an hour. Gusts, therefore, will be up to 150 miles an hour with that. And its minimum central pressure is at 943 millibars. It's moving west-northwest at around 17 miles an hour. And that's the forecast track. So this is where Florence currently is, just there. Its forecast track is moving it ever closer to that eastern seaboard of the United States. That's where it's forecast to be by tomorrow afternoon, still as a major hurricane. And then Friday it hits the southeastern coast of America, somewhere in the Carolinas. Its position is changing slightly from run to run. It looked like it's going to hit North Carolina. Now it looks like it's going to be somewhere between North or South Carolina. So still can't really pinpoint the exact area that's going to be hit by this. But of course, all the Carolinas, both North and South, will have major impacts from Hurricane Florence in terms of wind and rain. But of course they've got to pinpoint exactly where the eye of the hurricane is going to come on shore. It's going to be a devastating weather event that will be hitting the Carolinas on Friday. And then beyond that, as we go into the weekend, it moves further inland. So by the end of the weekend, it's a tropical depression. And by that point, it looks like it's going to be somewhere around the South Carolina-Georgia border. So it'll still be bringing copious amounts of rain, even then, even though the winds, of course, will be starting to ease down. But this is going to be a major, devastating weather event that will be happening on the southeastern coast of the United States. If you're in its path, then basically heed the warnings from NOAA and from the National Hurricane Agency. If you're in an evacuation area, then evacuate, get out of the path of Hurricane Florence. It's going to be very, very severe indeed as it comes ashore on Friday. And talking of storms, we have had the latest list of names for the 2018-19 storm season issued by the UK Met Office and the Irish Met Agency, Met Éireann. So let's just get that moving again. So I'm going to show you the latest name of the storms that have been released for this year. It won't be anything like what's happening in the Caribbean, of course, but these are our latest names for the 2018-19 storm season. So we've got Ali, Brona, Callum, Deirdre, Eric, Freya, Gareth, Hannah, Idris, Jane, Kevin, Lily, Max, Neem, Oliver, Peggy, Ross. Now I think that S is Saoirse. I'm sure someone in Ireland will correct me if that's wrong, but I think you pronounce that Saoirse. Tristan, Violet and Win. So they are the names for the 2018-19 storm season, courtesy of UK Met Office and Met Éireann. So we should wait to see how far down that list we get for named storms for this season. But there we go. There are a list of 2018-19 storm names from Ali down to Win. And maybe we'll have one of those named quite shortly, because it does look as though things will be turning rather unsettled in the North Atlantic over the next week or two. Although, as ever, for the southeast, there's little sign, in a more reliable time frame anyway, of anything particularly wet coming up. So these are the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles next couple of weeks. The red line here is the upper air temperature average for London, looking at London today. So temperatures are on the drop over the next few days. The rest of this week is going to be pretty cool with those upper air temperatures. Over the weekend into next week, warming up. This push up in the temperature is associated with the air that's been dragged up from the tropical Atlantic, courtesy of what is now Hurricane Helene, but will just be an area of low pressure through the early part of next week. In the extended range, which takes us through like the final week of September, a lot of scatter showing up there. So we've got several ensemble members that are keeping things quite warm, several that are actually going quite cool. So I think once we get the remains of Helene out of the way, it does look as though the temperatures will probably be lowering through the second half of next week. But quite what's going on there into that final sort of week to 10 days of September. A lot of uncertainty there, a lot of scatter within the ensemble. These warmest ensemble members are very warm, but these coolest ensemble members down here are really quite cool indeed, especially when you consider that's an ensemble for London. So, again, very uncertain what's happening there. In terms of precipitation, lots of dry weather coming up for London and the southeast in the next week. They have got some precipitation coming through during the final week of September. As ever, though, that's a long way off, and it is really quite uncertain. There will be wet weather associated with the remains of Helene, but it looks like most of it will be, as usual, certainly at the moment, in the north and western part of the country, with the east and the southeast tending to get the warmest of the weather. Temperature anomalies over the next week. This takes us from the 12th to 20th of September. They're coming out a little bit cooler than average for Scotland and Northern Ireland, and a little bit on the warmer than average side for England and Wales. Not a big deviation either. I expect those to trend warmer over the next few days, especially for the south. Precipitation anomalies from the 12th to the 20th of September. Warmer than average in the south and southeast, but still wetter than average in the north and the northwest. This very much depicts the northwest-southeast split that we've got across the country in the next week. So up here it's wetter than average, but down here it continues to be dry on average. Notice France remains very dry, much of Belgium, Holland, Germany also remaining very dry as well. Over in America, it's quite a warm scene also, so many of the states have above average temperature anomalies in the next week. The far Pacific northwestern and western coast is actually cooler, a little bit cooler than average there, but basically anywhere east of that is coming out significantly warmer than average. Looks very hot here through these sort of northern states just there. And then over towards the eastern side of America, just a little bit above average, but still, most parts of America going to be above average with those temperature anomalies in the week ahead. Precipitation for America from the 12th to 20th of September. Most parts of the states are looking dry, but you'll notice this dramatically wet area over here on this eastern coast. So, of course, that's down to Florence, and some parts of that Carolina coast are having like 800, or expecting up to 800% of their average rainfall, and much of that will be falling in a 24 to 48 hour period, of course, Friday and Saturday. So extraordinarily wet down in the southeast part of America around the Carolinas. Not only will we have these severe winds as Florence comes on shore, it'll probably still have sustained gusts of over 130 miles an hour. As well as that, just a wall of rain is going to be coming in from off the Atlantic Ocean. So obviously incredibly severe, and that's the reason they're evacuating those areas in the Carolinas that are going to be hit by Florence. Right, so this is how things are looking in terms of a GFS for the weekend. Now, this is a midnight run of GFS. I want to show you both runs that we've had so far today. There is a little bit of uncertainty about this area of low pressure containing the remains of Helene. So this is Saturday. We've got the typical situation of high pressure to the south and low pressure to the north, and the jet stream is up there. Down here, if you cast your eyes down there, we've got the remains of Helene just there. May still be a tropical storm at that point. Now I go through to Sunday and Monday, and this is how the midnight run of the GFS was looking for Monday. So still in a relatively flat westerly flow, with the remains of Hurricane Helene just there, and then it's not till Tuesday that this system begins to move our way. So that's midnight Tuesday, and then we go through to Wednesday. You see that Helene has pushed across the country from Tuesday to Wednesday, so it implies that Wednesday is probably a mainly dry day, and then Monday rather, is probably quite a mainly dry day, and then Tuesday is the day that we get the remains of Helene, bringing very wet weather to the north and west, strong winds as well. Notice the tightly packed ice bar, so it could be gale force winds in the north and west, but also very warm in the east on Tuesday. By Wednesday, that system is moving out of the way into the North Sea, and then we go into this sort of flatter westerly flow, which is still quite a warm flow, but not as warm as it is early in the week, and also looks rather wet and windy, particularly to the north and to the west as well. That takes us up to day 10, still looking rather unsettled at day 10, but a little bit beyond day 10, we start to get this build of pressure developing again, so we go back in towards high pressure conditions through to the end of September. That high pressure, with its centre to the northwest of Scotland, will be bringing down quite cool air from the north or the northeast. That's the midnight run of the GFS. It's very late, it's a 6 o'clock run. And again, starting off on Saturday with high pressure to the south and low pressure up to the north. This is 6 o'clock in the morning on Monday, much quicker, bringing Helene, or the remains of Helene, to us. So that is where Helene is on the 6 o'clock run of the GFS on Monday at 6 o'clock in the morning. So just to the southwest of Ireland, this is around 24 hours quicker, bringing Helene towards us, or the remains of Helene towards us, compared to the midnight run of the GFS. So by 6 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday, that system has actually gone through. It's up across the northeast of Scotland. So we push the warmth through much quicker with the 6 o'clock run of the GFS. We don't have that very warm, hot day on Tuesday, and we also push a wet and windy weather through quicker as well. Still quite a warm air mass following along behind that area of low pressure, but not as warm as what the 6 o'clock run was showing. And then we're going to the extended range, or go up towards day 10, and much more of an influence from high pressure as well. So this is a very different run, 6 o'clock run of the GFS, and until we've sorted out what's happening with the remains of Hurricane Helene, I think everything else is going to remain in a state of flux. It's going to be very uncertain where things are going after Helene has gone through. This particular GFS run does want to establish high pressure and bring some very warm southerly to southeasterly winds as we go into the final stages of September. But again, take all of that really with a pinch of salt. Upper air temperatures look like this. So on Saturday, relatively cool upper air temperatures to start the weekend. Beginning to get a bit warmer on Sunday. And then on Monday, that's when we start to push up that very warm air that's being dragged up by the remains of Hurricane Helene. That's 6 o'clock in the evening on Monday. It does look very warm, especially in the southeast. You could well get temperatures into the mid-20s Celsius then. But moving the warmest of that air through quicker than what we see with the GFS midnight run. So there is quite a bit of uncertainty about the early part of next week. It will sort itself out in the next day or two. So ECMDF looks like that. Again, high pressure to the south, low pressure to the north over the weekend. Starting off quite cool. That's where Helene is on Sunday. Just down there, very close to the Azores at that point. And then we go through into Monday. That's the position of the remains of Helene just there. Still looks very intense area of low pressure. That's Tuesday. So this is somewhere in between the midnight run and the 6 o'clock run of the GFS. It's like a blend of the two. So by midnight on Tuesday, the remains of Helene are moving into Ireland at that point. Notice how tight back the isobars are. So that'll be bringing severe gales into the Republic of Ireland. Looks very, very similar to what happened last year with the remains of Ophelia, I have to say. That was in a very, very similar sort of position. You remember those very odd, sort of dramatic skies that we had. It was the 16th of October last year when the sky sort of turned that red colour, and it looked very, very strange indeed. It's also very warm and humid. So that's kind of like the same sort of thing that's going on there to what happened with Ophelia on this particular ECM. It will bring very wet weather and severe gales to the Republic of Ireland, and just a lot of warm weather, maybe with those airy coloured skies across parts of England and Wales. We go through to Wednesday and Thursday, and we've got rid of the remains of Helene then, and essentially we've got this area of low pressure churning away in the middle of the Atlantic, or middle of the North Atlantic Ocean, bringing strong winds to the north and west, and probably bouts of rain with it too. Up to day 10, that's how we're looking, so still looking quite unsettled at day 10, especially so for the north and west, but the wind remains quite warm. The wind is coming up from the Azores, so still relatively warm with the temperature, I would have thought, but quite a bit of cloud and rain in the north and in the west too. High pressure does keep the south, though, a little bit more protected from any notable wet weather. So it is all looking rather changeable, to say the least. But I think with so much uncertainty about the track and movement of hurricane or ex-hurricane Helene, until we get that out of the way, I think everything else will probably remain very uncertain. So finally, just have a look at the charts for Beijing Climate Centre for the next 40 days. This is how things are looking. Obviously, with so much going on in the tropics, do take this with a real pinch of salt, because all this activity in the tropical Atlantic does create a much greater level of uncertainty within the model output. But for the 500 millibar height anomaly for the next 10 days, the 11th, 20th of September shows above average heights to the south with below average heights up to the north. So the general pattern is low pressure to the north and high pressure to the south. Of course, there are deviations to that courtesy of the remains of Hurricane Helene. Then we go through to the next 10 days. 21st through to the 30th of September. The high pressure repositions a bit to be centred to the west of the British Isles and Ireland, low pressure up to the north. The flow jet probably doing something like that. Still a reasonable amount of dry weather, but quite a bit cooler there, I would have thought, for the final 10 days of September. Then the next 10 days, which takes us through the first 10 days of October, actually looking very different. This is the 1st through to the 10th of October. We've got below average heights to the south and sort of above average heights to the northwest. So that's a very different pattern that appears there. That would probably bring quite a cool northeasterly or maybe easterly wind, and the wettest weather with that will be down in the southern part of the country probably. So the jet stream might be on a bit of a southerly track there as well. So cooler, wetter, especially for the south through the first 10 days of October. And then more changes in the next 10 days, taking us from the 11th to the 20th of October, with above average heights returning to the south again, below average heights in the middle of the Atlantic, and the flow jet would go something like that. So that's turning drier and warmer through the middle part of October there. Quite an odd and very changeable update from the Beijing Climate Centre, probably indicative of all of the uncertainty that we've got going on at the moment. So that's your rundown for today, and it is looking quite uncertain what's happening through the course of next week. How unsettled is it going to get? What are the impacts of ex-Hurricane Helene going to be? And how quick will that area of low pressure impact us? All those questions are still remain to be answered. So keep checking back for the updates, but it does look as though it will turn very warm for a time across southern and eastern parts of the country early next week. Won't be at all surprised to see temperatures into the upper 20s Celsius, going back into the 80s Fahrenheit. May only be a one-day wonder. It might stretch over 2 days. And also wet and windy in the west, could be severe gales and lots of heavy rain for Ireland, probably northern England and Scotland at risk of wet and windy weather too. And then once Helene gets pushed through, then do we open the door to the Atlantic or do we build up high pressure? That remains to be seen. Right, that's brought you up to date with all of the updates. Hope you found the video interesting and informative. And at nearly 25 minutes, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.